All right, welcome back, and we are on 11.3, Part 1. Okay, in this section, you have some new vocab words, some new pieces. Okay, so we're looking at things that have new names to them so that you understand where those names are coming from, number one, and where to use those names in a formula. So the first part of this is just getting you used to understanding what the names or pieces of the shape are. Okay, so first of all, you know we're dealing with pyramids, which means you should know that it comes to a point. Okay, so pyramids come to a point. That's AKA number one. That's the big thing, making sure you understand that a pyramid comes to a point. So you have a base. So you still want to start these problems by drawing the shape of the base. Then writing out the formula, just like we worked on the other day today in class. And then plugging in, then going ahead and start doing the numbers. But we're going to start by talking about the shapes. So I'm going to draw a pyramid. Okay. And again, everybody should know what the dotted lines mean. The dotted lines mean you can't see those sides. Okay. So hopefully you know this is called a hexagonal pyramid. Why? Because the shape of the base is a hexagon. Okay, so we understand that the hexagon is the base. Notice it doesn't have two bases. And then we start talking about some things. We call this the lateral side, but the corner is known as the lateral edge. Okay. So you have the lateral edge. The corners are called vertexes. So it has a vertex and a base, whereas with a prism you have two bases. These are called pyramids. All right. Then you have a lateral face. Okay, now I'm going to shade this in. The lateral face is the flat side. Now notice your lateral faces are always what shape? Correct. They're always triangles. Okay. Whereas when we did with prisms, your lateral faces were always rectangles. Okay. So here our lateral faces are always triangles. What makes the difference? That's because when you only have one base, it's always going to come to a point like a triangle. Whereas if you have two bases, it's always going to be a rectangle. Okay? So you have lateral faces. That's the part I shaded. Okay, those are the triangles that make up your lateral sides. They're lateral faces. Okay, now, here's where we get tricky. The shape itself has an altitude. And that goes right down the middle. Okay, so I'm going to draw a different type of shape. I'm going to draw a square pyramid this time because it's easier to see what I'm going to talk about. It starts at the top and drops down to the center of the base. Okay, that's called an altitude. Okay, it's an altitude. It's how tall the shape is. Okay, altitude. But you have to remember the other pieces. Okay? As I go down the side of this shape, that's going to be called slant height. Okay? So now you have an altitude, which is the height of the figure, and then you have slant height, which is the height down one of the sides of the triangle. Okay? So a lot of these heights have different measurements, and you have to really keep track of them. Now, I'm going to tell you the real reason why you got to keep track of them is because you're going to be missing pieces of these things at times, and you're going to have to do right triangle work to find the slant height, or right triangle work to find the height of the figure, or right triangle work to find the apothem. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't go away. Everything builds on everything else we've done. And this is a constant issue with this class, is that you can't just do one thing and then forget it. All right, so understanding that slant height is actually this. It's a cursive L. Okay, and we still use altitude. It's still that right angle mark. So that right angle mark is still important. Now, you will notice that the right triangle work is, that's your altitude. Then this is your slant height, and this is your apothem. Okay? Now I just took that picture and slid it down here so you understand this is the right triangle work we're talking about. All right. Now that's just understanding the pieces. That's the beginning part of this. Okay? So now we're going to slowly move into doing some of the practice problems. And I can tell you that, again, the surface area formula that they give you has the lateral area in it. The first part of all these formulas is the lateral area, but they don't give you a lateral area formula. Okay? In other words, on the reference sheet, the lateral area formula is here. You're only going to see the surface area formula on your reference sheet. Right? And then, of course, it's plus the area of the base. This is 1/2 perimeter times slant height. Okay. Different things, same process. Different things, same process. Using the same process, different pieces, same process. Draw the shape of the base. So, let's just start with the problem one they use as the example. They use a hexagonal pyramid. So, what do? I draw the shape of the base. I know it's a regular hexagon. Okay? Hopefully everybody understands. It's a regular hexagon. So I draw the shape of the base. And then I write the measurements on it that are there. So I know that this is 6. And they give me an apothem of 3 square root of 3. So that's what I need for my shape of my base. So when I write out my surface area formula, it's 1/2 perimeter times slant height plus 1/2 perimeter times apothem. Because that's the formula for this base. Notice, just like I did in the other work. Except in the other work, I had to multiply this by 2 because a prism has 2 bases, whereas a pyramid only has 1. All right, so now I plug in my numbers. Remember, the number for slant height is the number I didn't put on my original picture. But you also have to make sure that it's going down the side, not down the middle. Because sometimes they'll give you the height down the middle, and now you have to do right triangle work so that you can find the slant height. Sometimes they'll give you this one, and then you plug in the pieces. Now, what happens? This is here, and this is always half of a side. Okay, that's your apothem. Notice, that means right here would be the number 3 for my right triangle, if I had to do it. Now, in my sample problem, I don't have to do it because they give me the slant height of 8. So now I just plug it all in. It's 1/2 perimeter. That perimeter is 36. Slant height, it's not on my original picture, which would make it 9, plus 1/2 perimeter, 36, times apothem. Now, if they want the lateral area, which part of this equation is the lateral area? Correct. It's that. It's always the front. So you can type in the lateral area, hit equal, it gives you the lateral area. Then hit plus, and it'll say the answer plus, then type this in, and it'll give you the surface area. Okay? So it works out every single time. All right? Okay. So the key is getting it set up first, and then putting in all the pieces. That's the key to this. All right. So I'm going to do the second problem here in just a second. You're going to work on the got it. Pause this video, do the got it, and then I'm going to continue with problem 2. And then we will do that got it, and then we'll continue from there. All right? All right, so just to let you know, we are now moving on to the second part. You've hopefully finished the first practice problem, and we'll go ahead and move on to the second type of problem that you may have. Okay, and that involves finding the pieces. So for example, you may not have all the pieces you need, and you need to find them. So let's pretend we're looking at the second one. Problem number 2 before you do the got it. Okay, so here you have a example 2. You have a square pyramid. Okay, so here I draw my square, and I know that they give me this is 30, and they give me the height. Okay, the problem is when I write out the formula, surface area equals 1/2 perimeter times the slant height. I don't need the height of the shape anymore. I need the slant height, which is going down the side of the figure. Well, they haven't given me that. So that means I know I'm going to do some right triangle work. And then the second part of that is the 1/2. Oh, it's the area of the base. And in this case, it would be base times height. Okay. Notice this is the only base you have. You don't have 2 bases, so it's not 2BH. So I can do the perimeter. I know that's 1/2 of 30 times the slant height. The slant height is what I don't have. I do have the area of the base, which would be 30 times 30, base times height. Okay, so all those measurements are from here, but I need the slant height. When I'm missing a piece, I know I'm going to be doing right triangle work. And we talked about this in the notes previous, that the hypotenuse will be the slant height. So I do have the height of the shape. They tell me it's 36.4. And then they give me a piece of the bottom. You should know that the piece of this bottom is 15, because it's always half the distance across, right? Makes sense? The whole distance across would be 30. I start here and go, there's 15. So now I do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, this is being my c. I can find that if I square root 36.4 squared plus 15 squared, that will give me this number. Okay, when you do it, hopefully you understand that the number becomes it becomes the square root of 1549.96. Okay, you just put this into that formula because this is now your slant height. Now, if you were to do this math, you're going to get a number, and when you put it in there, if you round at that point, you're going to have a rounding mistake. So you usually try to keep this as a square root, so put it underneath there. Or you do the math where you square this, and then the answer you would have gotten would have been 1549.96, and then you just put that in the radical. However you want to do it. But either way, it's making sure that you use the right triangle stuff to get the right triangle work. Now, the nice part is this piece is also known as your apothem, right? So sometimes they'll give you a different type of shape like they do for the got it number 2. So you go ahead and do the got it number 2, and then come back and we will check that tomorrow. Okay? We're checking the got it number 2 tomorrow. And then you'll start on the work in class. All right? So sometimes you have the slant height. Sometimes you will need to find the slant height. If you need to find the slant height, you're going to do right triangle work. And notice, the slant height is always, this is the altitude, this is the apothem, or it could be half of the side, depending on what you're looking at. And then this will always be the slant height. All right? Okay. Good luck.